Hello everyone, welcome back. I'm the Weather Dude, and today we're going to be taking a look at our Invest 93L that is spinning around in the southern and western Caribbean Sea. And without further ado, let's get right into it. So here is the system sitting in the southwestern Caribbean, about a 40% chance to develop within the next 5 days. Satellite imagery indicates there is an area of low pressure in this far southwest Caribbean Sea. There's some showers, there's some thunderstorms. It's going to drift towards the coast of Nicaragua and Honduras, and the hurricane hunters will actually investigate the system tomorrow, so June 15th, if deemed necessary. But regardless of development, there will be very heavy rain across Central America, as well as southern portions of Mexico through late this week. So again, 40% chance of development in the next 5 days. So you can see the tracking data shows that the storm will be heading on like a north-northwest path and then turning more northwesterly and then westerly, hugging the coast of Central America and Mexico. So that would probably give it less development chances. But there is also the Central American gyre that sits in this area, right, somewhere around here. And sometimes the low pressure can get caught up in this region, and then they can sometimes eject out into the ocean. So we'll see maybe what would happen, 7-10 plus days out from there. But it will have some time over water, in the Caribbean, maybe the Bay of Campeche eventually, should it track farther north enough. So that'll be something to keep an eye on as well. But again, if it stays closer to land, not much is really going to happen. But some models, there are a few that at least bring it below 1,000 millibars of pressure, which is enough to definitely deem it a, subtropical or tropical storm for sure. So it could gain some strength. So definitely something to watch out for in the days to come here with 93L. And again, models, I would say most of them do at least have it hitting tropical storm status at some point. 2 models even have it hitting Category 1 hurricane. That I kind of doubt. Actually, I really doubt it. At least for the short term while it's close to the coast. What happens after that, whether it gets ejected into the ocean or whether it keeps going into land, that would determine its future from there. But for a short-term future, I can 99% guarantee it won't be a hurricane just because of its proximity to land, right? Not much water for it to be messing around in. But where it's sitting right now, obviously there's some pretty warm water. I would say around 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above average, right? And then so the future zones that it'll be in over water. All right, so this is where it's at right now. And then you got zone number 1 it's going to be in, and zone 2, both of which are slightly above average on sea surface temperatures. All right, which is a good sign for the system. But these regions have been cooling down a bit in the past 7 days. All right, so the waters were warmer before. And if we look at the actual sea surface temperatures, again above 80. It is June. This time of year, the Caribbean could pretty much almost hold 80, if not in some spots hold 80 all year round. All right, and 80 is like that magic number. It's around 77 for a tropical storm, but for like a hurricane, the magic number is about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so we're at that time where we start to see the tropical activity pick up, basically right around this point, right about here. All right, so we typically start to see some storms, but again, the pickup really happens in August. And then lasting all the way through September and October, and then it kind of drops off in the end of October into November, right? Because water starts to cool down, more shear, etc. So for June, this is a typical development area. The storm, the low pressure anyway, is right here right now. So this general zone through the Caribbean into the Bay of Campeche is a typical prevailing track for this time of year. So very, status quo system. The tropical intensity index in this area is highly favorable, however, so if something wanted to form, it does have a somewhat, if not highly favorable environment to do it in. Part of that is the dry air. Now there is a little bit to the north, but the dry air, should it stick to the coast or closer to land, which would defeat the purpose of its development at all. But there is not that much dry air, and areas where there is, it is very low. So at least on the western half of this map. And you can see there's a storm rotating around down there. Of course, tied up with some convection from those daily thunderstorms over there near the equator. And then we got some pretty pretty moderate to high tropical cyclone heat potential. Again, it's sitting about here right now. It's probably going to track in this general region, so it might miss some of that, deeper water, that, deeper oceanic heat content. If it gets drawn more northerly, then that would, which is a possibility, by the way. It's not likely, but it's a possibility. And you can see it does, it does go north, but again, it does bend back pretty quick before reaching that central part of the Caribbean Ocean. So it does kind of bend back to the west. But should it take, that northern side of that cone, because remember, this is almost like a cone. You can think of it like, so it can track in this region. So should it take that north track, it might hit some of that deeper oceanic heat content. Because you gotta remember, the cone is kind of like this. So if it tracks on the northern and eastern side, it might tap into some of that warmer water. But again, that's going to be decided upon by the storm system in the next few weeks. The only thing really is the wind shear that's kind of killing it right now. Because wind shear has not only strong, like 50, 60 knots in some of these areas, but it's also been increasing by 5 or 10 knots in the past 24 hours. Even the Bay of Campeche, it's weaker, but not weak wind shear. I mean, it's like 30, 40 knots, but its wind shear is very strong and persistent. Now, in the northern Caribbean, like near Cuba, it's been dropping like 10, 20 knots in the past 24 hours, but where the storm system's about headed, yeah, it's been gaining a lot. So that's why I mentioned subtropical as a possibility earlier in the video, because of the wind shear, kind of like what we had with our first system, right? With, it maybe gets a little area. I think it was Alex was the name. And then it gets a little area of formation, but, the wind shear is, sometimes too strong, or maybe the sea surface temperatures are too cold. So there's a number of factors that go in making a subtropical system. And this one could be one, or maybe not. It could be fully tropical if the wind shear goes away. Development areas in the next 5 days looking pretty likely. I mean, 70 to 80 in this region here. Now this, you might think, well, that's 100%. Well, that is always there. Like, I swear every time I look at this map, there's always like a pink blob right there. But I would focus more on that could also be from daily thunderstorms, but because it's near the equator. But in this region, we're talking about, an above 50-50 shot in some areas, or in most areas of that graphic. So it is a possibility. And then if you look at the NCEP ensemble-based probabilities, again, right around 80% chance of formation, then it kind of tracks sort of in this direction. So if it hugs the coast, the storm itself is weaker in terms of like the category and the wind strength. The rainfall is still going to be pretty significant, and if it sticks close to the land, obviously those areas in Nicaragua, Honduras, Mexico City, and the Yucatan aren't going to enjoy that very much. They're not. But, if it takes a more northerly approach, it does get stronger, but it would also miss those areas. So all dependent on track here, as these systems, do like to rely on the track sometimes. So here is the GFS model, right? And you can see 850 millibars. Right, you can see the storm tracking to the north. Again, depending on how much time it spends over the water, obviously the more the better. Again, now it does go pretty far north. It kind of like loops over here. Or, I'm sorry, no, it loops over here. So it does spend some time over the Bay of Campeche. So it does have an opportunity, at least on the GFS version, to form. Then it just runs right into Mexico. It's like running full speed into a wall, like the brick wall. You just smack right into it. And that's basically what happens because of the mountainous terrain there. So it just kind of deteriorates, not really much left of it. That's the GFS model. The European model doesn't do much with it either. It kind of just takes it due west into Mexico, or I'm sorry, Central America, and then it tries to attach with another piece, and then it tries to kind of like make a rebound, but it's still kind of lagging behind. Goes over the Yucatan, as you can see right there. Then it tries to get a little something going. Got a little circulation in there, another one off the coast there. But both very weak and both very close to land. So land proximity will be an issue. Then it just, again, runs right into a brick wall into Mexico. And that's pretty much end of story with the European model. So model is not really building too much confidence on this one. If we look at the Canadian model, you can see the low spins. It kind of runs into Central America, though. And you can see that there's a little, again, kind of like with the Euro, a little circulation here, but I would say nothing to write home about for sure. And the reason it's getting steered west like that could be in part because of a blocking high pressure. You can see pretty much dominating this area, right, in the southeast United States. So the storm has to get steered in this direction. Just a question remains, if the high is weaker, does it sneak north a bit more, get more time over water? If the high is stronger, does it get pushed further south and further west and pretty much, run smack in the land and basically, do nothing? So those are the questions that do remain hung in the air. and we'll be updating you on those. Again, here's a last look at it. 40% chance of development. Thank you guys for watching this video. I am the Weather Dude signing off. Till next time, I will catch you guys in the next video.